Tonight, dozens of state lawmakers are asking for an audit of Utah Attorney General Sean Reyes over his relationship with the founder of Operation Underground Railroad, Tim Ballard.
Fox 13 News investigative reporter Adam Herbets will give us perspective on this major development.
2 people died, but another survived in a plane crash here in Provo. How the rough terrain made a challenge for rescuers trying to get to the site.
A series of audits have some interesting findings about how your tax dollars are being spent.
And we're tracking our next storm system moving closer, bringing the rain in Northern California. When does it make its final move, though, towards the state? I'll let you know in the forecast.
You're looking for a dentist, you see he or she has a license and no discipline history, you think everything's great.
I can say that Utah does have a reputation for having weaker consumer protection laws generally.
But we'll tell you about a Utah dentist who's been suspended in 3 states.
Live from Utah's news leader, Fox 13 News at 9 starts right now.
I'd like to know all the trips that the AG has been on in the last 3 or 4 years. I really would, because I know they're trying to hide that information from the media.
One branch of state government is investigating the other and, in a way, turning the tables. Good evening, everyone. I'm Bob Evans.
And I'm Kelly Chapman. Usually, Utah's top law enforcement officer is investigating others, but tonight, as we reported just a few hours ago, dozens of state lawmakers called for an audit of Utah Attorney General Sean Reyes and his office.
Fox 13 News investigative reporter Adam Herbets joins us live in studio tonight to show us what's next. Adam.
Yeah, Bob, Kelly, these are the 20 Republicans and 6 Democrats who pushed for the investigation. They want answers to the same questions we've been asking about Attorney General Sean Reyes, his travel schedule, his use of campaign funds, and his ties to the nonprofit Operation Underground Railroad. Here's what we know so far. This was put together very last minute. Most people approached last night to see if they wanted to sign this letter. But the question nobody seems to be able to answer at this point is this. Is this the beginning of an impeachment?
I don't know. I think it would be too early to say that. If several other shoes dropped, that could change. But I don't think we're even close to that threshold right now.
Is it fair to say that the results of the audit will help you and your colleagues make that decision?
Oh, absolutely. And I'm not saying that is teed up for a decision right now. I think I take impeachment very, very seriously. There's been a loss of confidence in the Attorney General, but I think that is a very different thing than impeachment.
Well, it all depends on what the audit comes up with. If the audit comes up with some nefarious activities, then I think it is the beginning of an impeachment.
I don't know. I don't know anybody that's talking about impeachment right now. I think the public deserves better. And one thing I would add, Adam, is I don't think the Attorney General wants to be the Attorney General. He spends a lot of time doing things that are not relevant to his job as Attorney General.
Reyes has not answered our questions about his fundraising for Operation Underground Railroad. He hasn't answered questions about his use of a personal email to forward fraud complaints to his friend, Tim Ballard. And he hasn't answered questions about what he knew or didn't know about Ballard's ties to the CIA. But the Attorney General's office does say it welcomes working with auditors to get them the information they seek. Quote, "We are confident they will see what we already know." The Office of the Utah Attorney General does great work. Now, Bob, Kelly, we've already reported that Sean Reyes was under criminal investigation because of his ties to OUR. There were questions about what his office did with OUR money. That did not result in any charges. But keep in mind, our last 3 attorneys general have all been under criminal investigation at some point. None of them were impeached.
So the lawmakers, they've tried before to do an audit. What happened at that point?
Well, actually, they tried, at least one lawmaker tried to impeach Reyes back in 2021. That was Representative Andrew Stoddard calling for Sean Reyes to be impeached. That was largely seen as a political move in response to the January 6th riots. It just didn't go anywhere because very few Republicans, if any, supported it. Now Republicans and Democrats have questions about OUR, and they want answers.
All right. Adam, we know you'll keep on top of this story.
Of course.
Thank you.
Thanks, Adam.
Now to our other top story, this one in Utah County. 2 people are dead and another is hospitalized after a small plane crash.
Within the past 10 minutes, we learned the survivor of the crash is a 22-year-old man from Springville. The 2 killed were a 26-year-old man from Hideout, Utah, and a 23-year-old man from Santaquin.
It happened in the mountains above Provo. Crews tell Fox 13 News reporter Emily Tenser the steep terrain created a challenge for rescuers trying to get to the site.
Utah County deputies say the plane went down 11 miles away from where I'm standing here at the Hope Campground entrance near Kive Peak Road. 2 people died, but the 3rd passenger survived. Sergeant Spencer Cannon says the call came in around 11:15 Tuesday morning that a small plane went down near Slate Canyon. The passenger that survived was actually able to get up and start walking around. A medical helicopter flew them to Utah Valley Hospital. Cannon has no updates on their condition.
Anytime somebody survives a landing, essentially, that's not on a runway, they're very, very fortunate. The fact that somebody might be able to survive when 2 others did not tells you that timing was and whatever was just right for that person.
Deputies say the crash site is not easily within reach. Provo Fire and Rescue were the first to get there, and that took them 45 minutes to an hour. The terrain is steep and there's some snow up here in the mountains, but with the sunshine that was out Tuesday afternoon, that was melting and making for some slippery spots. A medical examiner has already visited the site. Now investigators will take over to determine the cause of the crash. Reporting near Kive Peak, Emily Tenser, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Now, if it seems like there has been more plane crashes this year than in the past, that's because there have been.
Let's go in depth tonight. The National Transportation Safety Board says there have been 33 plane crashes this year in Utah, not counting today. That's the most the Beehive State has seen in the past 5 years. 6 of the crashes this year have been fatal. 3 of them resulted in minor injuries. 24 saw no injuries.
To put those numbers in perspective, neighboring states such as Wyoming only have had 6 reported crashes. Nevada had 19 and Idaho had 27. Looking at past years, this year ties 2019 in terms of deadly plane crashes. 2019 is also the next highest year when it comes to the total number of plane crashes altogether. Now, we'll continue to follow this story and provide updates on air and online on our social media pages and at fox13now.com.
Right now, Salt Lake City police are asking for your help in finding this missing 15-year-old. They say Silas Christian was last seen wearing a black hoodie and blue jeans near 945 East, 2100 South earlier this afternoon. He did not return to school after lunch. If anyone has information, they're asked to please call 911. The funeral for President M. Russell Ballard of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints will be this Friday. He died Sunday night at the age of 95. Services will be held in the Salt Lake Tabernacle on Temple Square from 11 a.m. to noon. Anyone from age 8 and older is invited to attend. The funeral will also be streamed on the church's broadcast page and the Inspiration and Events YouTube channel. A private burial service will be held at the Salt Lake City Cemetery immediately after the funeral.
New tonight, Salt Lake police are investigating a crash involving a Unified Fire Authority ambulance. Happened at about 5 this afternoon at 2700 South, 700 East. There were only minor injuries. The ambulance did not roll over and it did not have a patient inside at the time, just the fire crew. The ambulance had its lights and sirens on, headed to a call when the crash occurred. There was a rock fall near Weeping Rock at Zion National Park at about 3:40 this afternoon. The dust from the slide interrupted shuttle bus service until about 5. Nobody was hurt. The Weeping Rock shuttle stop, parking area, and trail will remain closed until further notice.
Glad nobody was hurt there, but man, it was surely a gorgeous day to go outside for a hike, a walk, just about anything, Breck.
Oh, I know. Fabulous fall weather continues on. Kind of feels like we're on borrowed time here, knowing that things can quickly change, but we're not seeing those abrupt changes as of yet. It was a beautiful day. Starting off, as I share a photo up on our Facebook page, Utah's Weather Authority at Deer Creek Reservoir. Brent capturing this photo. Look at how still that water is at Deer Creek, and looking at Mount Timpanogos at the top of your screen. It was a beautiful day where temperatures once again above average, getting up to 66 degrees for the official high in Salt Lake City. We topped off at 64 in Ogden. Many spots in the low to mid 60s as we turn towards west central Utah, even 70s in St. George. Eastern Utah looks like mainly seeing 50s from Vernal through Price. Now currently we're standing in the 40s here along the Wasatch Front, still holding on to the 50s, at least in Delta, as well as mid 50s in St. George. We show you the satellite radar. A few clouds tracking through, coming in out of the southwest. It's the southwest flow that we're still under, waiting in preparation for our next storm system. But overnight, we'll be looking at partly cloudy skies as temperatures dip down into the low 40s. So starting off, a few more clouds, one more day of warm temperatures before the storm hits. What will that next storm bring? I'll let you know coming up in just a few minutes.
Thanks, Breck. Also coming up, helping communities that have been forgotten to find their voice. We'll share recommendations to the Murdered and Missing Indigenous Relatives Task Force in Utah.
A dentist has been convicted of healthcare fraud and drug distribution. He's on the sex offender registry.
I paid all my debts to society, and then I moved out here. I'd like to start a new life and begin again.
We'll tell you why he's still seeing patients in Utah.
On Utah's Capitol Hill, a series of tough audits on agriculture and water use, also affordable housing and Utah's prison safety.
Let's get the latest from Fox 13 News political reporter Ben Winslow.
The audit certainly had some eyebrow-raising findings about how taxpayer dollars are being spent, with state agencies promising some changes.
There had been unfortunately, several attacks on officers.
An audit of Utah's Department of Corrections found chronic staffing problems has led to safety and security issues at the new prison in Salt Lake City. It blames officer assaults on staffing issues and even inmates not feeling safe. And it's hard to find employees, with staffers now working mandatory overtime shifts. The legislature budgeted for 704 staffers. It needs 895, but there's only 323 working at the prison now. There's been overturn in prison administration. The new management committed to recruitment with better wages and improving employee morale.
We're confident that a sustained, focused effort will continue to see improvements, and then when the culture improves, the retention improves, and that's what we're committed to doing.
Another audit focused on Utah's housing shortage. It urged cities to rethink their love of single-family lots and embrace high-density housing. If they don't, the audit warns there's a potential they run out of room by 2050.
As we talk big picture about strategic goals going forward, we just need to recognize what we can control and what we can't. So, for example, local government has no control over the labor shortage or interest rates or inflation or material costs or any of those economic conditions.
It had lawmakers talking about a statewide plan to address housing costs and shortages.
My oldest daughter just got married a year ago. She told my wife last week they don't know if they're ever going to be able to afford a house in Utah.
And the Legislative Auditor General released a report that backed up something Fox 13 News and the Great Salt Lake Collaborative reported last week. The state has spent hundreds of millions of dollars to get farmers to switch to new technology to grow crops with less water. Agriculture uses 80% of the state's water. But the Utah Department of Agriculture and Food can't say if the water that's conserved is actually going to places like the Great Salt Lake. The audit called for better data collection. Lawmakers are already drafting bills to address it.
A lot of our irrigation companies do have good data as far as the diversions that they've done in the past. Now we just need to start tracking diversions and depletions, and to make sure that the water that we save can be tracked into the lake.
One environmental group was critical of the water audit. The Utah Rivers Council says taxpayers are being fleeced. It called on the legislature to require that saved water be given to the Great Salt Lake. On the Hill, Ben Winslow, Fox 13 News, Utah.
It was election night in Utah, at least on Capitol Hill. Elections were held for the Speaker of the House and Republican majority leadership. House Majority Leader Mike Schultz was elected Speaker. Saratoga Springs Representative Jefferson Moss is now Majority Leader. Clearfield Representative Carrie Ann Lisenby is Majority Whip, and Paradise Representative Casey Snyder is Assistant Whip. New House Speaker Schultz outlines some of his priorities.
Determining what we think are the most important top priority policy issues that are facing the state. Of course, a lot of it has to deal with growth, water, infrastructure.
Schultz pledged to work with House Democrats on major legislation. The entire House will vote on him tomorrow night.
State lawmakers are looking at new recommendations to help some communities that feel forgotten. A disproportionate number of Native Americans experience violence in Utah. An updated report to the Murdered and Missing Indigenous Relatives Task Force includes general recommendations such as improving communication between law enforcement agencies and improving training. House Minority Leader Angela Romero co-chairs the task force with Senator David Hinkins. She says they are working on a bill to create a full-time position to focus on these needs and bridge the gap.
Obviously, some of this stuff will never stop, but at least there'll be those safeguards put into place for tribal communities that they feel safer in reporting or even working with agencies.
Lawmakers also hope to extend the task force for the next 2 to 3 years and will bring that up in the next legislative session. They say there is still more work to be done. You can find the full report linked to this story at fox13now.com.
Well, our next storm system moving closer towards the state, and ahead of that, we're still finding these very warm temperatures statewide, where the official high today in Salt Lake City, 66 degrees. Again, this is where we're at yesterday, almost 15 degrees above average, not quite record breaking. We've been enjoying the 60s. We get one more day. Then we see some changes outside right now, though. Under mostly clear conditions, we have temperatures in the 40s. We're expecting to see with that additional cloud cover and the flow out of the south. Temperatures still above average to start off your Wednesday morning. It's kind of cool, though, as we're expecting to see overnight lows dip down into the upper 30s and low 40s here along the Wasatch Front. But as I mentioned, one more day with these warm temperatures, expecting to see it be a little bit more breezy tomorrow in preparation of this next storm system. And again, as we're tracking this storm, it's mainly going to be bringing chances of rain both across southern and northern Utah late Wednesday night through Thursday morning. And then we've got another round of rain heading into the weekend. Not only a round of rain, but for some of us, maybe seeing a little bit of batch of snow coming through, particularly as we look towards the end of the weekend. But let's get you through looking at tomorrow, where, as I mentioned, the winds increasing. The focus will be mainly across western Utah as we go through the morning. Not a big issue, but it's the afternoon we start to see those winds picking up, particularly west central, southwestern Utah, kind of on a range between 15 to 25 miles per hour. We potentially could see some wind gusts 35 miles per hour. Notice we also see a burst of some wind here come tomorrow evening. This is associated with a band of rain that's going to be tracking through northern Utah in the overnight hours. That could produce some winds. Then the flow turns a little bit more westerly as we head into it looks like Thursday afternoon, and particularly as we look Castle Country down through south central Utah, we could be holding on to some decent winds there. But again, no wind advisories in place. Right now we're mainly just seeing clouds here throughout the state, high level clouds, no activity from radar there. But here's our next storm system. It's moving on, bringing those showers throughout northern California. We see that dip in the jet stream, kind of breaking down the high pressure. We'll still hold on to those mild temperatures. And then once that storm pushes its way through, or a piece of it, we'll see another wave come through for the weekend, but it's an additional storm behind that which will usher in a cold front as we go from Sunday into Monday. Now let's take a look with this first storm, the timing of it all, and when we start to see the precipitation. It's not during the daytime hours for Wednesday. You can see from morning to afternoon we'll be having kind of some clouds and then a break in the clouds, and then heading into the evening, thicker clouds with some rain showers starting in St. George, again late Wednesday night through early Thursday morning. Overnight we start to see the rain here across northern Utah, meaning that we're waking up Thursday morning. Definitely can see some wet weather, standing waters as well, as there will be an issue just throughout the morning. And now models showing it pushes on by by Thursday afternoon, which means Friday should be pretty good here throughout the state. Now, tonight we'll be looking at those temperatures, as I mentioned, 30s and 40s for most spots under mostly clear conditions. Partly cloudy skies with some afternoon breezes, but again, we're seeing temperatures still in the 60s throughout most of the state and still low 70s in St. George. For St. George, it's 70s, then 60s with some rain on Thursday. Maybe an isolated shower Friday, but more rain expected for the weekend. Clearing out by Monday, definitely looking cooler by the beginning of next week. Northern Utah, it's 60s with some rain Thursday. Friday looks to be okay. Cooler though, weekend is 50s. Notice I do throw a little bit of snow late Sunday night through early Monday morning. It's just going to be short, brief, quickly moving on. Then it's 40s thereafter. And it's still looking like for Thanksgiving travel, Tuesday and Wednesday, it's good to go.
Utah Governor Spencer Cox is in Colorado this week promoting his Disagree Better initiative. Cox chairs the National Governors Association. He was joined by Governor Jared Polis from Colorado, Governor Greg Gianforte from Montana, and Governor Kevin Stitt from Oklahoma for the second in a series of bipartisan events aimed at encouraging healthy debate and political discourse among youth. It comes during a time where arguments have grown more hostile.
We understand that this is a problem across our country. You heard from experts today who are seeing this. We're more polarized than we've been at any time since the Civil War. We're passing those checkpoints at failed democracies that we've seen across history. And so what we're trying to do is encourage and inspire people to find a different path, to offer something differently.
At today's event, they also unveiled a new public service announcement featuring both Democratic Governor Laura Kelly of Kansas and Republican Governor Mike Parson of Missouri.
A new pedestrian bridge is now open at the Frontrunner station in Provo. It spans 4 tracks in total, 2 Frontrunner tracks and 2 Union Pacific lines, both located at 600 South, 100 West.
This is really a symbol of how we want to take care of our active transportation folks, our pedestrians. Provo puts safe and sound as a high priority. It's one of my 4 pillars, and this just meets all those needs.
UTA says it will allow riders a safe, easier way to access the station through a series of walkways and bike facilities.
He's been convicted of healthcare fraud. His dental license suspended in 3 states. Why is this man still allowed to be a dentist here in Utah?
Doesn't change the fact that he mismanaged a medical emergency.
Fox 13's Nate Carlisle digs into his past.
Can we talk to you for a couple minutes about your case in Arizona?
No, I'm telling you, you cannot film me.
And what Utah regulators aren't telling you about healthcare professionals. Fox 13 investigates. Next.
He's had his dental license suspended in 2 states. A 3rd state suspended it after a patient died. I'm Nate Carlisle with KSTU here in Salt Lake City. Can we talk to you for a couple minutes about your case in Arizona? He's been convicted of healthcare fraud and narcotics distribution. He's on the sex offender registry.
I can say that Utah does have a reputation for having weaker consumer protection laws generally.
How is he still a dentist here in Utah? We've been asking that. I'm Fox 13 investigative reporter Nate Carlisle. Here's what you aren't being told about health professionals in Utah. Dr. Endicott? This is Dr. Thomas Endicott. His dental license is suspended in Arizona, but we didn't find him in Arizona. Dr. Endicott? We found him at a dental clinic in Cottonwood Heights. Business records list him as the principal owner, and he's the only dentist listed on the clinic's website. I'm Nate Carlisle with KSTU here in Salt Lake City. Can we talk to you for a couple minutes about your case in Arizona?
No.
You plan on fighting your suspension there and trying to keep your license? Our Scripps news station in Phoenix looked into Endicott. Can you talk to us about your practice here in Utah? The investigative team there discovered the Arizona Board of Dental Examiners suspended Endicott's license after the death of a 72-year-old patient Endicott had given anesthesia.
And you cannot film me. I'm telling you, you cannot film me.
He mismanaged a medical emergency.
That's audio from a 2022 Arizona Dental Board meeting. Endicott's attorney called the death from a cardiac emergency an unfortunate event.
our position that Dr. Endicott appropriately managed the patient's care and treatment as he tried to walk through an emergent situation.
But let's back up and go to the Midwest for a moment, because that's where Endicott first had issues with regulators. Endicott pleaded guilty to healthcare fraud, along with overprescribing narcotics in Michigan in 2005. He also pleaded guilty that same year to a sex offense, when a female employee said he pinched her on the butt. Now he's a registered sex offender because of that charge. Endicott was also licensed in Illinois. He's lost both his dental license there and in Michigan, stemming from those criminal charges.
I sent in my request to submit the case to a formal hearing.
That takes us to Arizona. Endicott sought a license there. Endicott pleaded his case to that state's dental board in 2012.
I've paid all my debts to society, and I've moved out here, and I'd like to start a new life and begin again.
That year, the Arizona board voted to give him a license. That brings us here to downtown Salt Lake City and this office building that is home to the Utah Division of Professional Licensing, or DOPL. In 2016, Endicott got a dental license in the Beehive State. DOPL representatives declined to go on camera, but a spokeswoman pointed us to this statute. In short, it says DOPL considers criminal histories on a case-by-case basis and the applicant's or licensee's current circumstances. And nothing requires DOPL to deny or suspend a license just because someone has lost it in another state. Once you have a license in Utah, you don't even need to tell DOPL if you've been suspended in another state.
So states are allowed to license professionals, and they can have higher or lower standards.
Tennille Brown is director of the Center for Law and Biomedical Sciences at the University of Utah Law School. She says, unfortunately, professionals like doctors or dentists face fewer regulations than, say, consumer products.
So it is the case that you could have a dentist that might be considered too unsafe to practice in Arizona, but not too unsafe to practice in Utah.
DOPL will post some information about a professional's discipline history online. But Endicott has never been disciplined in Utah, and DOPL doesn't post a license holder's history in other states.
I don't know that the answer is for them to just put everything on a public-facing website, because you do want to protect the confidentiality of people who want second chances and deserve second chances. But if there is some kind of good cause shown or some kind of risk to the public, there should be a way for groups to get access.
A DOPL spokeswoman said it was unaware of Endicott's Arizona suspension, but after inquiries from Fox 13, she said that DOPL would investigate to determine if the patient death there violates Utah's standards of care. Bob and Kelly.
So he was suspended in Illinois and Michigan, but what about Arizona? Was he suspended there?
Yes, it's a temporary suspension at the moment, but there's a hearing on December 29th, according to our Scripps News partners in Phoenix, to determine whether that should be a permanent suspension in Arizona.
So you mentioned this in your story. Is Dr. Endicott on the sex offender registry here in Utah?
No, he's registered in Arizona. At one point, according to the Utah Department of Corrections, he was registered in Utah as well when he was residing here, but he moved out of state, and that's the issue. It's where you reside, and there's definitions for that.
So what are you supposed to do to make sure that you are seeing a dentist or a doctor who is not just qualified, but doesn't have a criminal past in some other state?
Yeah, and this can be frustrating for health consumers here, right? I think you have to stick to the things you've been told to do. Verify that there's a license that he or she has, and see if there's a discipline history attached to that license. Do the online reviews, look at the online reviews, I should say, and then get referrals from family and friends. Those are important too, to finding, not just a qualified doctor or dentist, but someone you're comfortable with and you're going to be comfortable with.
Good tips and reminders there.
Yes.
Fox 13 News investigative reporter Nate Carlisle in studio with us tonight. Thanks, Nate.
Thank you, Kelly. Thank you, Bob.
Well, coming up, a group of University of Utah healthcare workers planning to unionize, their reasoning behind the move.
And thousands of demonstrators from the Jewish community and their allies come together in Washington, D.C. today in support of Israel. Hear from a Utahn who was there.
University of Utah healthcare workers are unionizing. Members of Utah Health Workers United Local 7765 say they feel the university is not listening to their concerns or making efforts to address them. Union members say they want to have constructive conversations and negotiations with hospital administration about issues like wages, staffing ratios, benefits, and mental health of employees.
Really, what we're trying to convey also is that all these issues don't only affect the employees, it affects our patients as well. It affects patient care and patient outcomes.
The university responded with a statement saying in part their primary goal is always the well-being of our patients and teams. They went on to say they are willing to talk with team members who have concerns. However, they have not received notification about the formation of a union.
Thousands of demonstrators from the Jewish community and their allies came together in Washington, D.C. today in support of Israel in the war with Hamas. A delegation of Utahns, including members of the United Jewish Federation of Utah, took part in the rally at the National Mall. The event condemned anti-Semitism both domestically and globally, as well as demanded the release of hostages held by Hamas.
For a lot of Jews in this country, this is a release of spirit, a release of hope, and a proactive thing we can do to show the world that we need our hostages back and we need to finish this war against this evil regime called Hamas.
Israeli President Isaac Herzog addressed the Washington crowd from Jerusalem, while Americans from both sides of the aisle took to the stage to speak. Utah Congressman John Curtis spoke with a man who says his son is being held hostage by Hamas.
Honoring a civil rights icon by walking to school. That story for you up next.
And firefighters have a message for you. Before cooking that turkey on Thanksgiving, we'll show you.
Coming up in sports, the Thunderbirds took on the Aggies in Logan, and the fourth-ranked Utah women had their hands full in Baylor tonight. And the Jazz played their second in-season tournament game tonight against the Blazers. Could they improve to 2-0? The highlights are on the way.
Oh boy, that's not good. Scary.
That's right. Thanksgiving is just 9 days away, but today Salt Lake City Fire held a demonstration of what it looks like when a frozen turkey is placed in boiling oil. If you have an oil flare-up, don't try to put it out with water. Instead, they recommend you cover it with baking soda or a lid or even a towel to deprive the flame of oxygen.
I got to be careful. This morning, thousands of students, parents, and teachers nationwide celebrated Ruby Bridges Walk to School Day.
It was on this day in 1960 when Ruby Bridges became the first African-American student to integrate into an all-white elementary school in New Orleans. William Penn Elementary in Mill Creek hosted their own Ruby Bridges Walk this morning. Parents and educators at William Penn Elementary say Ruby Bridges' story serves as an example of courage and inclusivity, and that the annual walk is a way for students to engage in active learning.
Of course, a lot has changed since Ruby Bridges walked to school in New Orleans, but some say more needs to be done to better everyone. Today, I talked with Janetta Williams with the NAACP Salt Lake branch. She says many racial issues, bullying, and violence could be handled differently if people had knowledge of each other and the past.
What needs to happen is more education to the students and to the faculty about racism, discrimination, about bullying, and making sure that they know the history and making sure that it's not repeated, and to make sure that they put some type of diversity sensitivity training that goes on, not just when these things happen, but it has to be done all the time.
Janetta tells me she hopes school superintendents take a good faith effort to make sure their district is addressing discrimination and racism appropriately.
The largest outdoor recreation trade show in North America returns to Salt Lake City this week. Normally, Outdoor Retailer's winter show takes place in January, but this year they've switched to November. Brands are showcasing innovative new outdoor items, from heated clothing to folding ski goggles and portable gas fire pits.
I just love that our industry is always about learning and wanting to be better at what they do and advancing themselves, whether it's just a knowledge base or being more profitable, more efficient. And I love that our industry embraces that, and that's one of the only places you're going to find that is here at Outdoor Retailer.
Show director Sean Smith says Outdoor Retailer wants to create a new program to highlight Utah brands at future shows.
Ski Utah and representatives from different resorts gathered in Salt Lake this morning to discuss some of the changes being implemented in this year's ski season. The biggest change is from Deer Valley, which is expanding its resort to nearly 5,800 acres, making it one of the largest resorts in North America.
It's important for people to know that as we grow, it will just be more of Deer Valley, and we will stay true to what we are known for, and that means evolving thoughtfully. That means considering not just our staff, our community, our guests, but also the environment.
The resort also expects to add a new base village and portal, providing another point of entry for skiers and hopefully alleviating traffic congestion.
Now all we need to add is some snow. Yeah, as we look at some of the ski resorts where they were hoping to be opening up here over the next couple of weeks, delayed due to the lack of snow, even though we've had a few storms bring some snow towards the higher terrain. We do have a couple of storms that will be tracking through. Snow is in the forecast for the mountains, but it's way high initially, but snow levels will be dropping. We've been mentioning the possibility of seeing maybe a few snow showers for the valley floors. That's still a chance here as we talk about the second storm for the weekend. Right now, though, we're mainly looking at partly cloudy skies here in Salt Lake City with your current temperature at 47 degrees. Still the flow out of the south. Chances of precipitation. Again, it's mainly rain, especially with the first two storms coming through. And St. George, you're finally getting into the mix. It's been since October 3rd since we've seen measurable rainfall or precipitation in St. George. Looks like Thursday through Friday, a good chance of seeing that rain even throughout the weekend, Saturday and Sunday. And then we'll push away the storms, at least for St. George, where for northern Utah, we'll kind of keep that chance going at least until early Monday morning. But a good chance of some rain, especially tomorrow night through Thursday morning. By Thursday afternoon, it's tapering off. Most of Friday, we're good. Weekend, on and off again, rain showers. But again, as we look late Sunday through Monday, we're going to have a cold front that sweeps in. That'll be dropping snow levels, dropping temperatures, where it'll be a short window. We could see some snow falling there again here across northern Utah. We still haven't seen that measurable snowfall in Salt Lake City, where again on average we should see it around November 8th. So we're a little bit kind of delayed there, waiting for that to happen. Right now we're just seeing those clouds here across the state. We've been lining up the storm, where the storm off the California coast is beginning to push some rain showers here for Northern California. A piece of the storm will move towards the state. That's what's going to hit Thursday. Then lagging behind, the majority of that storm will be pushing through for the weekend, and then another cold front behind it. But let's time it all out for you, including taking a look at next week, getting ready for Thanksgiving. Okay, so as I mentioned, as we look tomorrow night across both southern and northern Utah, we start to see the rain. So Thursday morning, it's going to be a wet morning commute, especially here across northern Utah. The showers push away Thursday afternoon. We're good to go on Friday. Saturday, it's scattered rain here throughout the state, both for northern and southern Utah. Sunday, it's at least starting off okay, but then in the afternoon, our storm hits. As you can see here across northern Utah, overnight, Sunday through Monday, we see the showers here across northern Utah, but it pushes away that Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. High pressure in place. We're not worried about showers or wet conditions for any Thanksgiving travel, but the model's showing lining up during Thanksgiving, a potential for storm kind of towards the latter end of the day. Now, looking at your hour-by-hour forecast for tomorrow morning, it looks like partly cloudy skies, temperatures in the 40s and 50s with highs in the 60s, including 60s through southern Utah and low 70s in St. George, where for St. George, we're going to see that rain on Thursday and then some showers throughout the weekend and cooler temperatures next week. Northern Utah, we've got the rain on Thursday. Weekend, scattered some rain showers, and then we'll clear out nicely, but it's going to be a cooler upcoming week in preparation for Thanksgiving.
The Utah Jazz played on a new purple court tonight when they took on the Portland Trail Blazers in their second group play game in the NBA in-season tournament. The Jazz debuted their new city uniforms as well. Jordan Clarkson started off hot, gets the steal, almost loses it, but gets it back and finds John Collins with the alley-oop jam. He had 14 points and 10 rebounds. More defense, Clarkson another steal. This time takes it right to the rim. Throws down 2 of his team-high 30 points. Colin Sexton got involved, pushes it ahead after the steal. And how about the assist? Between his legs, back to Kelly Olynyk. 3 is money. He had 12 points, 12 rebounds. Sexton had 13 points and 7 assists. Here's one of them to Larry Marketing inside off the glass and in. He had 21 points. And then in the fourth, it's Keontae George for 3. He had 15 points and 7 assists. The Jazz won at 115-99. They're 2-0 in the in-season tournament. In-state matchup between Southern Utah and Utah State. Prophet Johnson scores 2 of his 24 points off the glass. The Thunderbirds led it by as many as 14 points. But the Aggies rallied back ahead to Josh Oduji. Takes it right to the rim. Big-time throwdown, ties the score. Aggies led it by 1 at the half. Then in the second half, it's Great Osibor. Spins and throws it down. He led all scores with 31 points. Here's one more big finish for the Aggies. Utah State beats Southern Utah 93-84. Fourth-ranked Utah women took on number 21 Baylor. Alyssa Peatley, the big screen there. She gets up, knocks down the 3. She made 9 of her 11 shots, at a game-high 22 points. Then it's Gianna Niepken scores 2 of her 18 points. That tied the score at 51 in the third quarter, but the Bears pulled ahead, beat Utah 84-77. The Utes are now 2-1. The new college football playoff rankings were released, and Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, and Florida State are the top 4, followed by Washington and Oregon. Utah is 22nd, and Arizona is 17th, so it's another top 25 matchup for the Utes against a team and a quarterback on the rise.
Got a lot going for him. The quarterback has really done well. Delora was the starter early in the year, then got hurt and Fafita took over, and they really haven't looked back since then, and really has been a spark for him. And so it'll be a tough game for us. We're going to have to play well. We're going to have to play extremely well to get a victory.
Oklahoma is 14th in the college football rankings, so they're out of the playoffs, but they're still playing for a Big 12 title. And 5-5 BYU playing to become bowl eligible. They kick it off early Saturday morning, 10 o'clock in the morning, kickoff at LaVell Edwards Stadium.
It'll be an early morning, so I'm just going to ask everybody to remember the early morning seminary days. Get up early, fans, and show up and be there early. The cougar tail should taste really good in the morning, right? It'll be hot and fresh, ready to roll. We'll be eating our pregame meal 3.5 to 4 hours before, so 6 a.m. wake up, and then away we go. I mean, it's gonna be a lot of fun.
We'll be right back.
I can't believe it's over already, you guys.
The show? What, the
Thanks
newscast?
for watching the newscast, yes.
Hey,
and our Tuesday.
Yeah, and don't worry.
Just like that.
Quickcast is up next, though.
Oh, good, a little bit more. Stick around.